What happens when thieves target Clint Eastwood's mansion and instantly regret it? The night was quiet, save for the occasional whisper of wind that swept through the hills. Perched high above the sprawling town below, Clint Eastwood's mansion stood as a testament to rugged elegance. A fortress of wood and stone, it blended seamlessly with its surroundings, like something plucked straight from an old western. It wasn't just a house, it was a legend. And tonight it was the target. Inside a beat-up van parked a mile down the hillside, Danny, the crew's self-proclaimed mastermind, laid out the final details of their plan. His sharp eyes scanned a map splayed across the dashboard, lit dimly by the glow of a flashlight. "This is it, boys and girls," he said, his voice dripping with confidence. "Clint's been holed up here for years. Rumor has it he's sitting on a treasure trove, memorabilia, cash, maybe even a safe full of gold. It's ours for the taking." Lisa, the team's tech wizard, frowned as she adjusted her thick glasses. "You're sure about the security system? He's not exactly the type to leave his doors unlocked." Danny waved her off. "Come on, Lisa. The guy's in his 90s. What's he gonna do? Swing a rifle at us? Relax. You've got the gadgets, I've got the brains, and Marcus here." He nodded toward the hulking man cracking his knuckles in the corner. "He's got the muscle. It's foolproof." Marcus grinned, his teeth gleaming in the dark. "Just point me in the right direction." From the driver's seat, Trent shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the dark mansion in the distance. "I don't know, Danny. Something about this doesn't sit right. The guy's a legend. What if we're biting off more than we can chew?" Danny leaned forward, fixing Trent with a smirk. "That's why you're the driver, Trent. Leave the heavy lifting to us." Lisa sighed, her fingers dancing across a tablet as she prepared to breach the mansion's systems. "Let's just get this over with. If he's got half the stuff you think he does, we'll be out of here in no time." "Damn right," Danny said, flashing his trademark grin. "Let's make history." The van crept up the hillside road, its headlights off, gliding through the darkness like a shadow. The crew moved with practiced precision, slipping out of the vehicle and into the cool night air. The mansion loomed ahead, its sharp angles and wooden beams illuminated faintly by the moonlight. To the crew, it looked more like a monument than a home. Lisa crouched behind a boulder near the property's edge, her tablet glowing softly in her hands. "I'm in," she whispered, her voice steady but low. "Camera feeds disabled. Alarms offline. We're good to go." Danny motioned the group forward, his footsteps silent on the gravel path. The air was still, almost unnaturally so. Even Marcus, usually unfazed, paused to glance at the mansion's towering silhouette. "Feels quiet," he muttered. "Yeah, it's called being old-fashioned," Danny shot back. "Now stop stalling." As they approached the front gate, a faint red light blinked in the distance. Lisa froze, narrowing her eyes. "Wait, what's that?" "Just some old systems still running," Danny said with a dismissive wave. "You shut down the important stuff, right?" Lisa hesitated but nodded. "Yeah, I think so." "Then let's move," Danny said sharply, leading the way. The mansion's front door was unlocked, a detail that made Trent glance nervously at Lisa. "Unlocked," he whispered. "That's not a good sign." Danny rolled his eyes and pushed the door open, revealing the dimly lit interior. The air inside was cold, the kind of chill that seeped into your bones. The group fanned out, their flashlights slicing through the darkness. The mansion was eerily quiet, every creak of the floorboards magnified in the stillness. "See?" Danny said, gesturing at the untouched furniture and walls lined with Western memorabilia. "Piece of cake. Now let's find the goods and get out of here." But as the group moved deeper into the house, the silence began to feel oppressive. Lisa stopped in her tracks, glancing over her shoulder. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. "Feel what?" Marcus asked, his voice louder than it should have been. Lisa shook her head, her unease growing. "Like we're being watched." Danny snorted. "You're jumping at shadows. Keep moving." But as the crew pushed forward, that faint red light outside replayed itself in Lisa's mind, a nagging warning they had all ignored. The mansion's dim lighting cast long shadows across the halls, adding to the unease already creeping through the crew. They moved cautiously, flashlights darting from room to room, scanning for valuables. The walls were adorned with artifacts from Clint's storied career, old film posters, worn cowboy hats, and antique firearms displayed in glass cases. The air was heavy with history, but something about the house felt alive. "Focus," Danny barked, his voice low but commanding. "We didn't come here for a museum tour." Lisa's tablet beeped softly, drawing her attention. "That's odd," she muttered. "What now?" Danny snapped. "The system." Lisa hesitated, her eyes narrowing at the screen. "It's rebooting itself. I swear I shut it all down." "Fix it," Danny said, brushing past her. "We're on the clock." Marcus wandered into what appeared to be a study, his flashlight catching a glint of something on the desk. "Jackpot." He grinned, reaching for what looked like a stack of cash. The second his hand touched it, a low, whirring sound filled the air. The floor beneath him shifted almost imperceptibly. "What the?" Marcus began, but his words were cut off as a faint click echoed through the room. Lisa's head snapped up. "Marcus, stop. Don't move." But it was too late. A silent alarm had been triggered, and while the crew remained oblivious, Clint Eastwood was far from asleep. In a small hidden room deep within the mansion, Clint sat in front of a bank of monitors, his face illuminated by the soft glow of surveillance feeds. He leaned back in his chair, watching the intruders with a calm, calculating gaze. His lips curved into a wry smile as he reached for a switch. Back in the study, Marcus lifted his foot, and suddenly, metal shutters slammed down over the windows. The faint whir of machinery echoed through the mansion as the front door locked itself with a heavy thud. "What the hell?" Trent yelled, his voice tinged with panic as he ran back toward the foyer. The doors were sealed shut, the handle refusing to budge. Danny spun around, his flashlight beam jittering across the walls. "Lisa, what's going on?" Lisa frantically tapped at her tablet. "I don't know. Something's overridden my system. This isn't supposed to happen." From the speakers embedded in the walls, a low, gravelly voice filled the air. "You boys picked the wrong house." The crew froze, their eyes darting around the room. It was unmistakable. Clint's voice, calm and deliberate, like a gunslinger sizing up his prey. The air was thick with tension as the crew regrouped in the center of the mansion's vast living room. The realization hit them all at once. They weren't just locked in. They were being hunted. "This is bad," Lisa whispered, her fingers still working furiously on her tablet. "Whoever's running this system, they're 10 steps ahead of us." "It's not whoever," Trent said, his voice trembling. "It's him," Danny scoffed, trying to mask his unease. "Come on." The guy's ancient. He's probably sitting in a rocking chair with a shotgun, but the mansion seemed to come alive around them. Lights flickered. A faint creaking echoed from somewhere above. Footsteps? Or just the old house settling? None of them could tell. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the hallway. Marcus raised his crowbar, his knuckles white. "Who's there?" Silence. "Stop freaking out," Danny said, though his voice wavered. "He's just trying to scare us." A soft chuckle crackled through the speakers. "Seems to be working." Lisa gasped, her flashlight landing on a note pinned to the wall. It hadn't been there moments ago. Scrawled in bold, sharp handwriting were the words. "A man's got to know his limitations." "That's one of his lines," Trent whispered, backing away. "Focus," Danny snapped. "He's just playing mind games. Keep moving." But the house wasn't making it easy. Hallways seemed longer than they should have been. Doors that had been open moments ago were now locked. The faint sound of boots scuffing against hardwood echoed just out of sight. Clint was toying with them, steering them deeper into his lair. In the kitchen, Lisa found another note taped to the fridge. "You feeling lucky?" Her breath caught in her throat as she stepped back, nearly knocking over a vase. "He's everywhere," she muttered. Danny clenched his jaw. "No, he's bluffing. He can't be in 2 places at once." But they were wrong. Clint knew every inch of his house, every creak and groan, every blind spot and hiding place. He was a ghost in his own fortress, using the mansion's layout to isolate them. The crew's unity began to fracture under the pressure. "This is a damn setup," Marcus growled, his crowbar swinging dangerously close to Danny. "You didn't tell us he had a security system like this." Don't turn on me! Danny barked back, shoving him away. We stick to the plan? What plan? Trent yelled. We're locked in. The old man's got us on camera, and he's playing us like fools. The lights flickered again, and Clint's voice rang out one more time. Go ahead. Make my day. The crew froze, their breath shallow. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard creaked, followed by the faint sound of a shotgun being cocked. Split up, Danny ordered, his voice trembling. Find him, but deep down, even he knew Clint wasn't the one being hunted. They were. The crew pressed forward, the tension in the air growing thicker with each passing moment. Every creak of the floorboards sounded amplified. Every shadow seemed to twist and move. The mansion was no longer just a home. It was a trap, and Clint Eastwood was the spider at its center. Marcus led the way into a room that looked like a shrine to Clint's career. Memorabilia lined the walls. Golden revolvers mounted on wooden plaques, vintage posters from his iconic films, and a display case housing a weathered poncho and cowboy hat. This guy's living in his own museum, Marcus muttered, stepping deeper inside. His flashlight beam caught the glint of something shiny, a box that looked out of place among the relics. It was small, silver, and unassuming. What's that? Danny asked, his eyes narrowing. Looks like a lockbox, Marcus replied, striding toward it. Maybe he's keeping the good stuff in here. Be careful, Lisa warned, her voice tense. This place is full of surprises. Marcus ignored her, gripping the box and yanking it off the pedestal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a loud click, the floor beneath him gave way. Marcus! Lisa screamed as the big man dropped like a stone, disappearing into the darkness below. The trapdoor slammed shut behind him, leaving the crew staring in stunned silence. Marcus, are you okay? Danny shouted, pounding on the floor. A faint, pained groan echoed from somewhere below, followed by the sound of something dragging. Then silence. Marcus, answer me, Lisa called, her voice trembling. The speakers crackled to life, Clint's gravelly voice filling the room. I warned you boys, but you just wouldn't listen. Now one of you is part of the Foundation. You've got one chance. Leave, and you might just walk out of here alive. Lisa turned to Danny, her face pale. We need to go. This isn't worth it. Danny's jaw tightened, his pride overriding his fear. We've come too far. We're not leaving empty-handed. You're going to get us all killed. Trent snapped. Shut up, Danny barked. We stick to the plan? But the unease was spreading like poison seeping through the group. Clint wasn't just trapping them. He was breaking them. The mansion seemed to shift around them as they moved, its hallways narrowing and twisting like a living maze. Every door they tried was locked, every window reinforced with thick glass that refused to break. Even Marcus's crowbar, now in Danny's hands, was useless against the mansion's defenses. None of this makes sense, Trent muttered, his breath coming in short, panicked bursts. It's just a house. How is it this secure? Lisa, her fingers trembling, worked feverishly on her tablet. This isn't just a house. It's a fortress. He's got it rigged with systems I've never even seen before. Well, figure it out. Danny snapped, sweat dripping down his temple. Lisa's eyes darted over her screen as she bypassed firewalls and rerouted circuits. I'm trying, but this guy's tech is insane. It's like he planned for this. A loud bang echoed through the hallway, and the crew froze. The sound of boots on hardwood grew louder, deliberate and unhurried. Clint was coming. Move! Danny hissed, shoving Trent forward. The crew sprinted down the corridor, their flashlights bouncing wildly. The footsteps followed, calm and steady, a predator stalking its prey. They burst into a large dining room, the long table set as if for a feast. Crystal glasses sparkled under a dusty chandelier, but the crew didn't stop to admire the view. Lisa dropped to her knees by the wall, her tablet glowing as she worked furiously. Come on, she muttered, sweat dripping onto the screen. What are you doing? Danny demanded, his eyes darting between the door and Lisa. I'm trying to disable the locks. If I can get control of the power grid, we might have a shot at getting out. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, Every door in the house clicked open. Trent let out a relieved laugh. "You did it." But before anyone could move, the speakers crackled. "Nice try," Clint drawled. The lights cut out entirely, plunging them into darkness. "No, no, no!" Lisa cried as her tablet screen went black. She banged her fists against it in frustration. "He countered me. He shut me out." Danny cursed under his breath. "We're not giving up. Find another way." From the shadows, Clint's voice echoed once more, low and menacing. "You can't outsmart me, kid. I've been playing this game longer than you've been alive." The crew huddled together, their flashlights casting shaky beams across the room. The sound of boots returned, now closer than ever. Clint was driving them deeper into the mansion, cutting off every escape route, herding them like cattle. Lisa's breakthrough had been their only hope, but now they were more vulnerable than ever. And Clint knew it. The dining room door creaked open, and the crew spun around, flashlights trembling as they trained their beams on the shadowy figure standing in the doorway. Clint Eastwood stepped into the room, his iconic silhouette unmistakable. He was dressed in a weather jacket, a shotgun slung casually over one shoulder. Despite his age, there was nothing frail about him. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen far worse than a group of bumbling thieves. "Well," Clint began, his gravelly voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "You boys sure know how to make yourselves at home, but you picked the wrong house." Danny stepped forward, trying to mask his fear with bravado. "We're not afraid of you, old man." Clint's lips curved into a faint smirk. "You should be." He unslung the shotgun, leveling it at the group with a precision that made it clear he wasn't bluffing. "I've taken down men twice your size and half your age. Now, I'm going to give you one chance to walk out of here alive. Drop the crowbar and leave." Danny's jaw tightened, his pride flaring. "We're not going anywhere." Before anyone could react, Clint moved. Faster than anyone expected, he closed the distance between them and grabbed Trent, yanking him forward with surprising strength. The shotgun was set aside, replaced by Clint's fists. Trent swung wildly, but Clint ducked under the blow, twisting Trent's arm behind his back and slamming him against the dining table. Trent groaned in pain, struggling to free himself. "How the hell is he this strong?" Clint leaned close to Trent's ear, his voice low and calm. "I spent a lifetime fighting men like you. You're not special." He released Trent with a shove, sending him stumbling backward. Clint stepped back, retrieving his shotgun. "Now, I'd suggest you take your little crew and leave before I stop being so polite." Lisa grabbed Trent's arm, her voice shaking. "He's right, Danny. We're in over our heads. We need to go." Trent, still wincing, nodded. "I'm not sticking around to get my ass handed to me again." Danny turned on them, his face red with anger. "You want to run? Fine, go. But I didn't come this far to leave empty-handed." Clint tilted his head, his smirk returning. "Your call, kid, but you're only digging your grave deeper." As Clint disappeared into the shadows, Danny's determination hardened, but the fractures in the crew were impossible to ignore. They weren't just fighting Clint, they were fighting each other. The crew retreated into the mansion's main hall, the tension between them palpable. Danny paced furiously, muttering to himself, while Lisa and Trent huddled near the door, exchanging nervous glances. "This is insane," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's not just some old man. He's playing us?" Trent nodded, still nursing his arm where Clint had pinned him. "He's in our heads, Danny. We can't win this." Danny spun around, his eyes blazing. "We don't need to win. We just need to get what we came for. Are you even listening to yourself?" Lisa shot back. "Marcus is gone, and Clint's outsmarting us at every turn. This isn't a heist anymore. It's survival." As if on cue, the speakers crackled to life. Clint's voice echoed through the room, calm and deliberate. "You're right, Lisa. It's survival. And you're running out of time." The group froze, their eyes darting around the room. The speakers continued to hum, but Clint's voice was gone. In his place was something worse, silence. "Where is he?" Trent whispered, clutching his flashlight like a lifeline. Before anyone could answer, a door creaked open at the far end of the hall. A figure staggered through, and Lisa gasped. "Marcus?" It was him alive, but barely. His face was bloodied, his clothes torn, and his breathing labored. "You left me," Marcus growled, his eyes locking onto Danny. "We didn't know where you were." Danny stammered, but Marcus wasn't listening. "You let us into this mess." Marcus lunged at Danny, pinning him against the wall. "This was supposed to be an easy score. Get off me," Danny shouted, shoving Marcus away. The two men stared each other down, the cracks in their partnership fully exposed. Lisa and Trent tried to intervene, but Clint's voice cut through the chaos. "He's right, you know. You walked in here thinking you were in charge, but now you're nothing more than rats in a cage." Lisa glanced around, her stomach sinking as she noticed the walls lined with photographs, black and white snapshots of Clint during his military days. In one, he stood beside a tank, a rifle slung over his shoulder. In another, he was surrounded by a team of soldiers, his face grim and resolute. "Oh my God," Lisa murmured. "He was military. That's how he knows how to handle us." Danny followed her gaze, his confidence faltering. "He's just a guy. He's not invincible." Lisa shook her head. "He doesn't have to be. He's smarter than us, and he knows this house better than we ever will. We can't beat him." The revelation hung heavy in the air. Clint wasn't just a retired actor. He was a tactician, a strategist, and a man who had spent his life mastering the art of survival. The crew had underestimated him at every turn, and now they were paying the price. Somewhere in the shadows, Clint watched them, his eyes sharp and calculating. The cracks in their unity were exactly what he had been waiting for. The crew was unraveling, and Clint knew it was only a matter of time before they tore themselves apart. Danny paced in the dimly lit hallway, sweat dripping from his brow. The weight of the situation had finally settled on his shoulders, but his ego refused to let him admit it. "All right," he said, his voice sharp and commanding. "We're not leaving here empty-handed. Lisa, get that system back online. Trent, Marcus, find something we can use to break a window or a door. We're getting out of here." Lisa stared at him, incredulous. "Are you serious? Clint has us beat. He knows every move we make before we even think of it. This isn't a heist anymore. It's suicide." Danny's eyes flared. "We're this close. We can't walk away now." Marcus, still battered but standing, gave a low growl. "We wouldn't be in this mess if you'd listened to reason. But fine, let's end it." The crew moved like cornered animals, desperation driving their every action. Lisa scrambled to access what little she could of the security system, bypassing firewalls and rerouting power. "I've got limited access," she announced, her fingers flying over a tablet. "I can cut the lights, maybe disrupt the cameras. But that's it." Danny gritted his teeth. "Do it." The mansion was plunged into darkness. For a moment, the crew felt a sliver of hope. But then, Clint's voice cut through the blackness like a knife. "Nice try," he drawled, "but I've been in the dark before. Doesn't bother me one bit." Suddenly, floodlights illuminated the room, blinding the crew. The walls seemed to close in as hidden doors slid shut, cutting off every exit. Danny's flashlight flickered wildly as he scanned the room, only to find Clint standing in the doorway, his shotgun cradled in his arms. "Game over," Clint said calmly. "Drop everything you're carrying. Now." Danny clenched his fists, refusing to back down. "You think you've won? You're just an old man clinging to your glory days." Clint stepped forward, his expression calm, but unyielding. "Glory days? Kid, I'm still in my prime. You just never stood a chance." Danny lunged, his pride propelling him toward Clint. But Clint sidestepped with ease, hooking his foot behind Danny's leg and sending him sprawling to the floor. The shotgun clattered to the ground, but Clint didn't need it. He loomed over Danny, his voice low and firm. "Your problem isn't that you're a thief. It's that you're arrogant. You thought you could walk into my house and take whatever you wanted. You never even stopped to think what I might take from you." Danny looked up, his face a mix of fury and defeat. Clint stepped back, picking up his shotgun and motioning to the others. "Now, drop everything you've stolen, or the next trap won't be so kind." Reluctantly, the crew obeyed, dropping crowbars, tools, and the few trinkets they had managed to snag. Clint nodded. "Smart choice. The faint sound of sirens broke the tense silence, growing louder with every passing second. Clint leaned against the wall, watching as the thieves huddled together. Their once cohesive team, now nothing more than a collection of broken individuals. "Police are almost here," Clint said casually. "Silent alarm went off the second you stepped foot inside. I figured I'd let you play yourselves out before they got here." Lisa shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "You planned this whole thing?" Clint gave her a small smile. "Of course. You think this is the first time someone's tried to rob me?" The front door burst open, and officers flooded the room, guns drawn. "Hands where we can see them," one of them barked. The crew raised their hands, defeated. Danny glared at Clint as he was handcuffed, his mouth twisting into a sneer. "You think this makes you a hero?" Clint stepped closer, looking Danny square in the eye. "No, but it makes you the guy who underestimated me." As the crew was let out in handcuffs, one officer approached Clint. "We'll need a statement, Mr. Eastwood, and you might want to consider upgrading your security." Clint chuckled. "It's upgraded enough." "Thanks, officer." Danny turned back one last time, his rage bubbling over. "This isn't over, old man." Clint raised an eyebrow, his voice calm and steady. "Go ahead, make my day." Danny was shoved into the police car, his shouts muffled as the door slammed shut. Clint stood on his porch, watching as the red and blue lights disappeared into the distance. He picked up his shotgun, slinging it over his shoulder as he stepped back inside. "Want to hear more of this? Then click on the video on the right-hand side, which is even crazier."